Hello and welcome back to another episode of Escaping Kerbin in the series we're calling the Minmus mission Mishaps. In the last episode we sent this little lander, collect a whole bunch of science, jump to 3 different biomes, and so I think now they deserve to come home. They didn't pop a leak in their fuel tank, they didn't break any engines, so let's just get them back safely. So once again, just a reminder, this is a 6-part series, so we are now on episode 4, or part 4 I should say. Part 4 of the 6-part series. We've got a couple more things to do before we can really wrap up our time here on Minmus. So we're just going to get ourselves a high apoapsis, almost an escape trajectory, but we don't want to escape from that side. We want to escape from the side closer to Kerbin. So we go ahead and pull out our maneuver to see what we can get the best possible trajectory. So then we plot it into a flight computer. Line ourselves up with the maneuver, and then we'll see if we can do a little science in the space above Kerbin while we have it. Get as much science as possible. The thing that I find interesting about orbital mechanics is right now we are heading away from the surface pretty fast. We're lifting, and the thing that always kind of just surprises me, that I just find so interesting, is the fact that rather than floating away from the craft, or the craft floating away from this Kerbal as soon as it exited, the Kerbal is just hanging out. And that's just because the Kerbal's going the same speed as the craft, in the same direction, as fast as each other can go. Very interesting. So we bid farewell to Minmus. And we spot our destination. So here we are, executing our maneuver. We've got plenty of Delta V. I'm not worried. However, we are going to bring our periapsis just above the atmosphere because we want to utilize it to slow down. We're also going to be burning at the atmosphere as well. So here we are, just finishing up the burn. And if we miss our capture burn into Kerbin, as you can see, we are going to be launching straight out of the sphere of influence of it, and that's not going to be good. So I go ahead and turn off the flight computer so that way I can point my solar panels towards the sun. We don't need to line up just yet. And then here we are, we're just gonna time warp our way. We're adding our maneuver, and then we press the tab button so that way we can focus on our maneuver. If you didn't know that, that's a handy way that you can just really just fine-tune your stuff instead of having to adjust your maneuver from across the distance of space just because your focus is stuck on your craft. So as you can tell from the music, we are now set to return. It freezes up a little bit while I'm doing time warp. Not too excited about that, but all in all we make it without any problems. And we're already plotted into flight computer, so all that's left to do is fast forward to the maneuver and execute. We're just brute forcing our way to lower our apoapsis. I like having as low of an apoapsis as possible. It makes the re-entry a lot easier, coming in at a lower angle. We're coming in a polar orbit. So, landing on the light side is going to be a challenge, because we're kind of just straddling between the two. But we're a little bit geared off towards the light side, so that's nice. It's always appreciated when you can see what you're doing and where you're landing. And as you can see, we are going to be using up every last drop of our fuel. Really maximize and make the most efficient mission possible. It's a nice thing. It's much nicer than having less than the fuel you need. It's slightly not enough. And with that, we are set to return. We have a trajectory that will land us about midway through the planet. So I need to just kill all my flight computer stuff. Go ahead and turn myself orbital out, so that way I can jettison our lower stage. There we go. I like pointing orbital out to jettison so we don't end up running into it as if we were to point retrograde. It already just puts it on its own different plane. We run no risk of hitting it. Once again, Black Rack's volumetric cloud is just stealing the show. And I did try to set my trajectory up to land as close to the KSC as possible. We're not going to quite hit it, but it's nice to be close to it. So we've broken the atmosphere. We're at 53,000 meters, and we start our re-entry heating. But since we're going at a low enough angle, I don't feel that we're in too much of danger. We don't even have any heat gauges coming up, so I'm not too worried. But the thing is that our parachutes, I never set them to deploy at the altitude that I like them to deploy at, and I was worried that they were going to rip up in the atmosphere. So I went ahead and just did my best to disarm them as much as possible. That's what I was clicking around earlier for. And if our parachutes burn up, we can always eject our pilots and have them parachute safely down, because, you know, they're equipped with that. But we have so much science. We have so much science that it would be disastrous to lose that. So the heating is done, and we're just coming straight on through the cloud layer. Looks like we're going to be landing on some solid ground. Always appreciated. And then right before I hit the cloud layer, I pop the parachutes open. Could have done it sooner. Slowed our descent closer to the ground. Sped up the actual descent itself. It's coming down. I'm having some graphical issues. The trees keep popping in and out. It's not great, but I like the fact that we have trees to begin with. So, trees and grass. Parallax 2 does a wonderful job of making the planet seem real. Yeah, we made it. We touched down. We have a couple science experiments we can do. Let's get these Kerbals home. So yeah, look at all that science. That was very much worth it. And the fact that we landed so close to the KSC that we got a good chunk of our money back was excellent. So now I'm just going to be looking through the science tab, look at all the different nodes that I have that we can unlock, and see if there's anything that can help us with our rescue missions to Minmus, because we cannot forget that we still have 3 Kerbals stranded there. We've got the 2 Kerbals from the initial mission to Minmus, and then the one that's in the refueler ship. So we have to figure out what we're going to do with them. I was also looking to see if I could unlock the mobile processing lab, because I really wanted to get that, and it turns out we have unlocked it already. We unlocked it probably a while ago and just haven't been doing anything with it. So I use my science and I buy nuclear propulsion, because that will help us out in the long run, and probably pretty soon once we start doing I don't want to say interplanetary, because I really want to use I really want to utilize the transfer window appropriately. As you can see here on our alarm clocks, we've got a bunch that we're just going to clear up real fast. I'm talking a bunch that we need to clear up. So we've got that. And so now we're going to go ahead and check out the transfer window planner. And after trying to figure out the buttons, because never quite used it before, trying to figure out the starting location, ending location, and how to set up everything. But we go ahead and plot ourselves an alarm clock for the most efficient transfer window to get to Duna. However, I did forget that we're playing with research bodies, so we actually haven't even discovered Duna yet. We might not end up discovering Duna until very far later. We might unlock a different planet entirely, in which case that's probably going to be the one that we go to, because it's going to be the most time efficient. So here we are back at the two landers. I still hadn't quite figured out that there wasn't enough fuel in there, but I did already figure out that we were not going to try to lift it up. We were going to just send a rescue mission. So I decided to put the 2 ships together and share the life support between them, because the refueler ship has much more life support than the lander does. And they both have plenty of life support. Oh, yeah, you see I'm having troubles with my robotics. They're not working the way that they should be. And by that, I mean they're not working at all. But yeah, I decided I want to share the resources. So even though, the lander itself has 2 years worth of food and water and oxygen, why not give it more? Because I had actually, in the last episode, I had forgotten that these were here, because there was a little bit of time in between recording of part 2 and part 3. So I had kind of forgotten that they were here until I had actually landed on Minmus with my other lander. So we want to prevent any disasters happening in case we forget again. And so we're going to just kind of walk our craft over on its engines, and then we're going to try to get this hook attached. The hinges work, the pistons just don't. Slowly, carefully. And it doesn't quite make it. It really sucks that I lost the footage of the refueler landing, and the fact that it hit the Minmus science hopper, because that was just really fun to see, but the footage got corrupted and we weren't able to utilize that footage. However, I just recently, in one of the episodes I just recorded for Kerbal, also once again lost my footage from that. It corrupted, but I found out how to fix it and how to save it. Sadly, I didn't find that out until just recently, but if it happens again, I know what to do now, and we'll be able to salvage that. So yeah, so they're connected now. As you can see, we have all 3 Kerbals at the bottom, so that's technically one ship. Go ahead and extend the solar panels so that way we can maintain our electrical charge. Then we go ahead and leave them there. We're coming back into the science tab once again because now we are going to be designing a mobile processing lab to rendezvous up, and we're going to utilize our scientists that are already on the planet's surface to do even more science. So I'm just kind of coming here and getting an idea of what would be the most useful. And it's that 10 millimeter heat shield that I was looking for. And it turns out we had already unlocked it. Again, another part that I didn't think that we had. I went ahead and unlocked the field science tab that gives us some ground stations, some ground experiments from the Breaking Ground DLC. Because if we're going to start setting up a Minmus base, we're definitely going to want those. And I like the look of very heavy rocketry. I like the engines that it's going to give us, so I decided to unlock that as well. And then that pretty much uses up all of our science. So now we're once again back in the build menu in the VAB. And the first thing we're going to start is we're going to build an escape pod. So yeah, we need to get 2 pilots off the surface, because those are the only pilots we have. We sent both of our pilots to Minmus. We're going to have to figure out something of how to get them back. But because we unlocked the mobile processing lab, yeah, I didn't like how big that made that. But since we unlocked the mobile processing lab, I think we're going to utilize our scientists to the best of their abilities. So this time I decide to set my parachutes for the correct rating, for the correct altitude deployment. For some reason they just like to default as at 30,000 feet, and at 30,000 feet oftentimes we're either still on fire or just going way too fast. So now I'm working on the mobile processing lab station. So the escape pod is going to be on the top, and it will launch from the top of the mobile processing lab. We put probe cores on there. We put one on the mobile processing lab just so we can have the science experiment and signal, but we put one on the escape pod so that way we can access flight computer, because you cannot access remote text flight computer without a probe core. There you go. And I put some science experiments on this. We're not going to need them because we're actually just going to collect science using our landers and other stuff, and we're going to input them. We're just going to collect the data and put it into the mobile processing lab on our own. But there might be some data that we can collect on our way or something. It's just, it doesn't hurt to have science, especially now that we can afford extra parts. So I go ahead and put these tanks on here. I like the way that they look. I forget for a little bit that they're liquid fuel only, so I'm putting some engines on there, and I realize that this is for nuclear power. So I'm going around trying to see what the best options are. Those are too big, so I end up going with the nerves, which were the first ones I tried putting on there in the first place. So, and then I check out these landing legs. I've never used them before, but they're very interesting, and they seem to fit on our tanks very well because they're small, compactness. So right there, what we did is we did a test drive to see if this could actually land on Minmus the way that we wanted it to, and it turns out no, it can't. The thrust to weight ratio is abysmal, and it doesn't turn very well. So when we try to do the suicide burn where we come in at an angle, the way that we've been landing our landers so far, it wasn't enough, and we ended up breaking ourselves. So we're going to throw some extra reaction wheels on there, and instead we are going to plan an inefficient burn, and we are going to kill our horizontal velocity at a high altitude above Minmus, and then just cruise down, straight down, and then utilize our nuclear power to bring us down safely. So now I'm trying to figure out the best way to put some storage on here, because like I said, we're going to be using the Breaking Ground DLC. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that up. Some lights, some probe control, experiment control station, bunch of solar panels because we need them, and some communication dishes, and some extra science experiments, some repair kits. I throw a couple fuel ducts in there. Just to see, maybe, who knows, we might be able to utilize them. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And it takes a little bit. Lots of parts for it to figure out. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with this little science station. So yeah, we tested it one more time, and we're very happy with how it performed. We did not do any stable landing with those legs, so we still have not tested those landing legs out. So now what you see here is I'm putting on a couple tac life support features that they're not food, water, and oxygen storage. They're not trash, but what they do is they split things. So it'll split the water, and it'll give you oxygen and carbon dioxide, I think. It's got a carbon splitter, it's got an air purifier, so this building is set to last for a very long time. So now I'm trying to find the appropriate fairing to fit on it, but I don't think I have one. In KSP POV, we've got the largest fairing, and I think I was thinking of that. So instead, we're going to just do it without a fairing. We're going to just hope that the aerodynamics are enough. So we throw some reverse separatrons on there to deorbit it when we need to. And we go ahead and throw on our new heavy lifting engine. I believe that's the Mammoth. We set our fuel ducts, we set our side boosters. This is pretty much the standard build that we've been doing, except the center hasn't been the orange tank. We use these new tanks that we just unlocked. Go ahead and check my staging. Everything's good. I have some explosives on some of the lower stages to make sure that we don't create more space trash. And then at the last minute I decided to throw these side boosters on with Reliant engines, and these are going to help us circularize our orbit so we don't have to use the nuclear power and potentially fall back into the atmosphere just simply because we couldn't get enough thrust in time. So we're going to use these Reliants instead. They too have explosives on them because we'll probably be in orbit by the time those are done. We don't want stuff hanging around in orbit. Yeah, so this is our crew setup, and we are excited. We are going to get ready to launch this thing. Just do some last minute changes, and then I put it on the launch pad. But we are going to save this mission for the next episode. Thank you so much for watching this one. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're enjoying this series. If you are, please consider giving me a like, drop me a comment, let me know your thoughts, and I will see y'all in the next one. Take care.